My name is Ryan Scullen. I'm the owner of Scullen Insurance in North Royalton, Ohio. I'm an independent agent. As an independent agent, I have multiple companies, so I don't just have one carrier that I can compare your insurance with. By having multiple companies, we're going to be able to find the best fit for you and your situation. So, a rider is anything that's going to amend your policy or add to your policy. There's a number of different riders. Common ones could be a child rider, accelerated death benefit rider, accidental death benefit rider. I would definitely reach out to your agent and see what riders are available. And based on what's available and what interests you, you may want to look at adding some of those. The best comparison I can give for the difference between term and permanent insurance, and this may be an oversimplification, but is the difference between renting and owning. Term insurance would be more like renting, permanent insurance would be more like owning. Term insurance can be a great way to buy a large amount of coverage. You can buy a half million, $1 million in coverage for a relatively low premium. The downside of term is that policy will expire after a certain period of time. So you may have a 20-year term policy or a 30-year term policy. That policy is going to expire after 20 or 30 years. But again, it's a relatively inexpensive way to buy a large amount of insurance now, while you may have some, pretty large expenses you want to cover. Permanent insurance, on the other hand, that's going to last your entire life. So if you continue to pay your premiums, that 500,000 $1 million is guaranteed to be paid out to your beneficiary upon death. It is a lot more expensive, but it also does build up cash value. The best advice I can give is to sit down with an agent and have the agent do a needs analysis so they can determine, first of all, how much insurance you need, and then also what type of insurance you need. At the end of the day, it's going to be up to you what you decide, but they can give you a recommendation again as far as to how much insurance and what type of insurance. You can definitely have both. I myself have both, and that's very common. So you may want to do a larger policy in term insurance and maybe a smaller policy in whole life insurance. So it's going to come down to what's affordable for you and what makes the most sense for you and your family. Both are actually really good options. There's definitely benefits of adding your child to your own policy, and there's benefits of having their own rider as well, or own policy as well. The one benefit of adding a child rider to your policy, normally one child rider, which may cost you, maybe $5 a month, if that, will cover all of your children. So if you have a $10,000 rider or a $25,000 rider, that one rider will cover all your children. So if you have multiple children, it's probably going to be in your best interest to have that rider on your policy. More times than not, though, I usually do recommend having a separate policy for your child. The policies are so cheap, anyways. Why not just lock that policy in while the kid's still young and they'll have that for the rest of their life? Going back to the child rider, you can usually convert that child rider to a permanent policy. So that's a nice benefit of that. But if the child has their own policy, you don't have to worry about remembering 10, 20 years down the road to convert that policy to a permanent one because you already have that permanent policy. For me, like I have a $75,000 policy on my kid because, or both of my kids. If something happens to my kids, I'm going to be a mess. I'm not going to be able to work for a while. So, yes, obviously, if something happens to myself or my wife, I want to make sure that either me or her or the family's protected. But also, if your kid passes away, a $15,000 policy may pay for the funeral. But what about you? You might want to have something else to take care of you if you have to miss a month of work or several months of work. I always recommend when it's affordable to buy life insurance while you're young and while you're still healthy because we're all healthy until we're not anymore. So at some point in time, you're not going to be as healthy as you are now. You want to buy life insurance before you get to that point. The life insurance as you get older is going to be more and more expensive. And obviously, if your health deteriorates, that's going to be a significant impact on the premium for your life insurance. First of all, if your employer provides life insurance, that could be a great thing. A lot of times, your employer pays for part of that life insurance. So if they do, I would probably recommend maxing that coverage out. They may offer you, one time your pay or five times your pay, whatever they offer. If they're paying for part of it, max that out because it's probably a great deal for you. But a good question to ask is, is if you leave that employer, what happens to that life insurance policy? There's a good chance that policy, you cannot take it with you. So I recommend, even while you have that policy, to have your own separate policy as well, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. One phrase I like to say is everybody's healthy until they're not. So, at some point in time, you're going to be less healthy than you are right now. So I would recommend, while you're still younger and healthy, buy a separate insurance policy to go along with the work one. Again, max out the work one. That's a great opportunity. The employer is paying for part of that, but go ahead and lock yourself in a policy now as well while you're younger and healthy. And that's typically when a lot of people buy life insurance, somebody they know passed, and maybe there wasn't enough preparation in that situation. So now they see the value of life insurance. And it's unfortunate it takes that, not saying it did in your case, but it's unfortunate it takes that sometimes people to realize what not having life insurance, how devastating that can be, to a family. Most people wish they would have bought life insurance sooner. That's the thing with life insurance is when somebody's on their deathbed, they're never going to regret that they bought life insurance. They're going to either be happy they bought life insurance or wish they would have bought more.